going to tell you a terrible story that happened on Halloween. This story is true, so they say. And it gives me the chills just hearing it. It all happened many years ago in my town. Back then, it was still just a small town nestled in the Catalonia Mountains, Spain. The town was just a small square with a church, a park, a prison, and a school with all the houses clustered around. This town was very proud of their school because it had been voted the best school in the province. It was one morning, October 31st, Halloween Day, in a quite crowded class where students were making some crafts. Some were cutting skeleton shapes out of paper sheets, some were drawing vampire bats, and others were drawing pumpkins. The students were all 8 or 9 years old. Their teacher was a beautiful young woman who had only been working at the school for about a month. While the children were happily preparing Halloween decorations, the teacher turned on the radio to listen to the weather forecast. She planned to organize an outdoor Halloween party for the children later that day and wanted to make sure it wouldn't rain. Suddenly, the weather forecast was interrupted by other news. This is an important announcement. A convicted murderer has escaped from the local prison. He may be armed and is extremely dangerous. Please do not attempt to approach him. Police will. The teacher quickly ran across the room to turn off the radio. She didn't want to panic the children, but perhaps it was too late. The children had all heard the radio broadcast and were very frightened by the news. They knew that the prison was very close to the school. The teacher tried to calm them down and told them not to worry too much. A few minutes later, the school principal made an announcement over the intercom system. Attention all teachers, we have been informed that the police are dealing with a very serious situation currently happening right in town. All teachers are advised to lock the doors and windows of their classrooms until the police have completely controlled the situation. I repeat, lock all doors and windows until further instruction. The teacher tried to reassure the entire class. She took out the key and locked the classroom door. Then she went around the room and closed all the windows, making sure they were secure and no one could enter. A little girl then raised her hand and asked if she could go to the restroom. The teacher didn't want to let her go, but the little girl said she couldn't hold it anymore. The teacher finally relented and allowed the girl to go to the restroom. After all, it probably wouldn't be so unlucky that the killer would choose the school as his escape target. The teacher told the little girl that when she returned, she would have to knock on the door with a special code. Then they would know it was her and could let her back into the room. The code was 3 knocks and 2 scratches. Then the little girl left the classroom and headed to the restroom. The teacher locked the door immediately after. To take everyone's mind off this scary situation, she began to sit down and tell stories. 20 minutes passed, and the little girl still hadn't returned. The teacher began to worry. "Why is she taking so long?" she asked aloud. Suddenly they heard footsteps in the hallway. Everyone in the class was dead silent. Then they heard a sound at the door. It must be the little girl. The teacher sighed in relief. She walked over and took out the key. "What if it's not her?" A little boy, trembling with fear, asked. The teacher hesitated. The key was just inches away from the lock. Again they heard a sound at the door. "It must be the little girl," the teacher said. She decided to put the key into the lock and turned to unlock it. Suddenly the classroom door burst open and a tall man was standing there. In his right hand, he was holding a knife, and his left hand was holding the severed head of the little girl. The escaped murderer stepped into the class, grinning widely from ear to ear. The children were now trapped inside the room. All that could be heard in the school hallway were horrifying screams and cries of pain. In the chaos, the teacher managed to break a window and jump out. She crawled away and escaped. She barely saved her own life. Some of the children, however, were not so lucky.
When the police arrived, they found the killer sitting in the middle of the classroom. The floor, walls, and ceiling were covered in blood. Small body parts were scattered all around him. They found the headless body of a little girl in the third stall of the restroom. The police pieced together what might have happened on that cold October day. The escaped inmate, he had been hiding in the restroom when the poor girl walked in. He must have hidden very well and restrained the girl, forcing her to tell him the password to knock on the door. After getting the information he needed, he murdered the little girl. Currently, that teacher is in a psychiatric hospital. She never recovered from the incident. The school was later abandoned because no one wanted to send their children there anymore. Too many bad memories had happened. The school was left exactly as it was when the murders occurred. They say that if you visit this old school and go into that classroom, you can see drops of blood still dripping from the walls. If you are brave enough, you can even go into the restroom, just knock 3 times and scratch 2 times on the door of the third stall. Then open it, and you will see the headless body of the unfortunate little girl sitting on the toilet. One evening, a young girl came home from school and found her house empty. Her mother had left a note on the refrigerator for her. It said that her father was working the night shift today, her mother was out shopping, and her younger brothers were at soccer practice. She was home alone at the time. The girl went to lock the front door as a precaution. Then she placed her mobile phone on the living room table, hung her keys on the hook, and went upstairs into her bedroom to change clothes. As she was undressing, she saw a note on the bed. The girl picked it up and read the message on it. It said, "Someone is in the house." She assumed her brothers were trying to play a trick, so she crumpled it up and threw the note away. "Okay, very funny, guys," she said. "What happened? Did you skip soccer practice?" But no one answered. "Hey, I know you're here," she yelled. "If I find out you were going through my stuff again, you're dead." The girl went downstairs to the kitchen, intending to make herself a snack. When she opened the refrigerator, she found another note. It said, "No one is here but you and me." She put the note down and said, "Hey, you two, this isn't funny anymore. Stop it." Still no answer. The girl went to the front door and tried to turn the knob, but it was locked. She turned back to get her keys, but the hook where she had hung them was empty. Then the girl looked down at the living room table and saw that her mobile phone was also gone. On the table, there was another note. It read, "You won't escape." The girl screamed and picked up the landline phone to call the police. There was no dial tone. She followed the phone cord and realized it had been cut. There was another note lying right near the phone. No phone, no police, no escape. Trembling with fear, the girl ran to the back door. When she tried to turn the knob, she found it was also locked. Immediately after, she discovered another note taped to the back door. It simply read, "Look up." The girl looked up and saw her pet cat stabbed through the heart with a kitchen knife and pinned to the ceiling. She screamed in horror and ran to the nearest window. She tried to punch it, but couldn't shatter the glass pane. It didn't even crack. There was another note taped to the window. It read, "You won't give up, will you?" The terrified girl tried to think what she should do. She needed a knife to defend herself, running to the kitchen. But when she opened the drawer, it was empty. All the knives were gone, and in their place was another note. It read, "Children shouldn't play with sharp things." She ran upstairs into her bedroom and locked the door, checked inside the closet and under the bed. No one was there. Her TV turned on by itself. It was loud and had no signal. On the screen, she found another note. It read, "Now you're exactly where I want you to be." The girl started to panic, screaming, "Help! Help me!
Somebody help me." Right after, she remembered her laptop. She went to find it and opened it up. Quickly sent an email to her best friend. "Help! This is not a joke! Call the police now, there's a stranger hiding in my house." A few minutes later, she heard sirens outside. The police had arrived and broke down the front door. 2 officers rushed into her bedroom and saw her huddled in the corner, shaking with fear. The police searched the entire house from top to bottom, checking every nook and cranny, but found no one. When the officers asked the girl what had happened, one of them noticed there was a note taped to the girl's back. He pulled it off and handed it to her. It read, "I was this close." Isabella and Chloe were 2 typical American teenagers after school. They spent all their time together, watching horror movies, eating, shopping for new clothes. They liked to party, socialize with friends, have fun, and enjoy life.
Unaware of the terrible fate that heaven had prepared for them. And one night, Isabella and Chloe decided to have an all-night outing. They planned to sneak out and go to the nightclub right after their parents went to sleep. Isabella wished her parents good night and went upstairs. When she thought everyone was asleep, she took out her mobile phone, called her friend Chloe, and told her to meet her at the store down the street. Chloe agreed and hung up. Isabella quietly opened her bedroom window, trying not to wake anyone. She stepped out onto the window ledge and climbed down the drain pipe. While walking on the deserted street, she had a strange feeling that she was being followed. Her hair stood on end. She glanced behind her, but was still alone. When she arrived at the corner store, no one was around. So, she took out her mobile phone and called Chloe. "Okay, I'm at the store," she said. "Hurry up, or I'm going home." "What's going on?" Chloe asked. "I don't know," Isabella replied. "Tonight is not like other nights. Something feels wrong. I have a bad feeling." "Come on, you're just imagining things." Chloe laughed. "I'll be there in 2 minutes. Wait." Isabella hung up, but she couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching her. 5 minutes later, Chloe appeared, and the 2 girls walked to the nightclub together. The doormen here never asked them for identification. They went inside, and very soon after, they started dancing to the music and flirting with the guys on the floor. Around 3 a.m., Isabella was chatting with a cute guy who was probably at least 10 years older than her. Suddenly, she felt her phone vibrate in her pocket. It was a message from her ex-boyfriend, Anthony. She hadn't received any messages from him since they broke up a month ago. The message read as follows: "Come outside. I have a big surprise for you." Feeling quite curious, Isabella looked around and saw Chloe busy talking to some other men. So, without saying goodbye, Isabella walked out the nightclub door. She had only taken a few steps when she received another message. It read, "Meet me around the corner by the trash cans." The streets were dimly lit and deserted. Isabella felt nervous in her stomach. Something was wrong, but she told herself. Maybe she was just being overly cautious. Inside the nightclub, Chloe was looking for her friend after waiting for 15 minutes. She started to lose patience. She scanned the dance floor, but there was no sign of Isabella. She even checked the restrooms, but they were all empty. At 3:27 a.m., Chloe was relieved to receive a text message from Isabella. It read, "Meet me outside right now." When Chloe went outside, she received another message. "I'm by the trash cans here. Come find me, my dear." Chloe followed the instructions, crossing the dark and desolate street. When she turned into the alley to meet Isabella, in front of her was a horrific sight. Chloe's heart felt like it sank into her chest. Isabella was hanging upside down from the street lamp in the parking lot behind the trash cans, green and red string lights. usually used to decorate Christmas trees, were sparkling. Wrapped around her ankles, there was a large pool of blood beneath Isabella. Her body was stripped of clothing, revealing deep wounds, slashing her abdomen and chest. Chloe collapsed to the ground and started screaming hysterically. Some people standing at the nightclub door heard her cries, rushed over when they turned into the alley and saw Isabella's bloody body dangling in front of them. Everyone was utterly horrified. The police were called, and they questioned Chloe for hours, who was still in a state of panic. She could barely speak, couldn't control her emotions. She told them about that night, how she and Isabella had sneaked out together. She tried to recall all the guys they had flirted with on the dance floor. They asked her if she knew anyone who would want to harm Isabella, but she couldn't think of anyone, as much as she wanted to catch Isabella's killer. She couldn't help the investigation. During the interrogation, one of the police officers took out a plastic bag. Inside was a blood-stained envelope. "We found this in Isabella's throat. It was addressed to you," the police officer said, as he handed Chloe the envelope. The name Chloe was scrawled on the front, with trembling hands. She took out the piece of paper inside and read it. The letter wrote, "Maybe if you had stayed in bed and gone to sleep as planned, things like this wouldn't happen. Don't sneak out at night. Bad things can happen." The police had to hold her up before Chloe fainted. An ambulance took the girl to the hospital, and she had to be treated for shock. When Chloe returned home the next day, she was still very shaky. Her parents told her Anthony, Isabella's ex-boyfriend, had been arrested for murder. He was later released after passing a test by a lie detector machine. He claimed that his phone had been stolen on the day of the murder. The police did not rule him out as a suspect in the case, but they also didn't have enough evidence to charge him, as fate would have it. Isabella's murder remained unsolved. The killer was never caught, and over time, people started to forget about the incident. 2 years passed, and Chloe had almost recovered after the terrible night when her best friend was brutally murdered. One night, she called her boyfriend and arranged for him to meet her at the park. It was around 2 a.m. She started walking to the park, but felt a very strange presence. It seemed similar to the feeling that Isabella had told her about on the night she was murdered. Chloe was close to the park, so the feeling surfaced, so she tried to ignore it. Her phone rang. It was a message from her boyfriend. "I'll be there soon. Love you." It made her feel much better. The last thing she had to do was walk past that store. The park was right ahead. She started walking, but heard something behind her. Immediately, Chloe started running. Chloe's boyfriend arrived at the park and waited for about 15 minutes. At 2:35 a.m., he received a text message from Chloe. It read, "Just keep going straight and you will see me." He did as instructed and walked forward. There, hanging upside down from a tree branch, was Chloe's mutilated body. The Christmas string lights were wrapped around her ankles again. She was completely naked and covered in blood. The boyfriend called the police and was questioned all night long. The next day, when Chloe's boyfriend got home, there was a letter waiting for him at his front door. It was stained by small drops of blood. Inside the letter was the content. "Don't sneak out at night. Bad things can happen." Wish I could tell you that. The murders of Isabella and Chloe have both been solved. That the evil killer has been found. To this day, the police say. The investigation is still ongoing, but it's been a long time. They haven't had any new leads nowadays. Hardly anyone mentions these murders. They were high-priority cases at the time. But due to the strange lack of evidence, people soon forgot about them. Everyone involved had to move on with their lives. You might wonder, How? I know so much about this story. I don't want to go into it because it is still an ongoing investigation. If you're curious, I'm just a police officer assigned to this case. I am the police officer who gave Chloe that blood-stained letter. You might also wonder why these two murders were never solved. Well, as I always say, don't sneak out at night. Bad things can happen.